Got a few minutes.
Tell you in advance that I'm not going to be here for the May meeting.
You're going someplace.
I'm going on a Mediterranean cruise.
Oh, nice.
We're starting in Rome
Uh-huh.
and finishing in Athens.
Oh, that's great.
2 weeks.
Wow.
It's one weekend on one of those small ships,
Uh-huh.
and then the other. Spend 3 days in Rome and 3 days in Athens. Go all around Sicily.
Oh,
No, it starts in Rome and goes down around Sicily and then up around
Are both, like, is it just one boat or you switching?
one boat. Yeah, it's not a river cruise. It's on the sea. Yeah, I was looking at those river cruises first, but then I said, so you don't want to do the one on the Rhine River. I guess the water was so low that they actually had people had to get off of those boats and get on coach buses. And their whole trip was on a bus. Can you imagine spending all that money and being stuck on a coach bus? Yeah. It's like, okay, that sounds, it looked really nice, but
Well, I must be part of it. Get close to me.
You're getting up.
Someone must be selling my information.
you're getting up into the age that Mike and I are.
There's one that's now you can go for 3 years. They saw they go for 3 years for like 30 grand a year.
Oh my gosh. What, like you go every year for 3 years?
You can stand and ship for 2 years.
Stay on it?
Around the world.
For 30,000? That does not seem right.
It might have been for a couple of things per person, you know.
Yeah, but that does, I mean,
You're saying they're part of it because of that. It's like a sneak, you know, like plus there, you know.
oh my God, that's wild.
All right, I have 6:45, so I will call the Munster Board of Zoning Appeals to order. Everyone please rise and join in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Mr. Vanderwood, please call roll.
Here and there.
Here,
Dan, Roman Rep.
Here.
Daniel Buxo.
Here. We do have a quorum, but please note that since we just have a majority for a quorum, that all actions must be unanimous. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February 14th, 2023 meeting. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I just had one correction. Page 4. Down towards the bottom. Sentence starts with Ms. Mayor said she was wondering. You see that, Tom?
I do see that, yeah.
Okay, and then after reduce the, I think the next word should be size.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, we can fix that.
That was all I remember.
Any other corrections or additions to the minutes? What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I wish that they would be accepted as amended.
It's been a motion supported by Mr. Raffin. Is there any question on the motion? Here seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 It is passed on voice vote. We do not have any preliminary hearings today, so we'll move on into the public hearings, and this is BZA 2210, the Community Foundation of Northwest Indiana requesting multiple variances, etc., for the medical care facility at 730 Treadway. Mr. Vanderwood, please update us on where we're at.
Thank you. As I think you noted, this is a continued public hearing, so this presentation has been heard by the board. This would be the third time. The last time was last month. The applicant appeared before the board with a proposal to essentially for a comprehensive sign plan for the immediate care building, which is under construction currently at 730 Treadway Drive, which is approximately the intersection of southwest quadrant of the intersection of the Treadway Drive, which is under construction, and Calumet Avenue. I won't go into any details about the development. I think we're all familiar with it. It's a 30,000 square foot immediate care building. At the previous meeting, as I said, there was a sign package that was presented. The board did review that and ultimately tabled the petition and asked the applicant to go back and rework their drawings, think about seeing if they could comply a little more closely to the standards of the zoning ordinance. So the package that's submitted tonight still requires a handful of variances. I believe the current request is for 21 variances from the sign standards. But what they're proposing to do is install 2 signs on both the north, east, and south sides of the building. You can see a representation there. There's both a logo sign sort of in the center of the building there, and then you can see this channel letter immediate care sign is on the side of the building. And so you can see the 3 sides here, which have somewhat similar signs being proposed. That's the north, east, and south side. And then they're also proposing a monument sign out at the street out on Treadway Drive. I would be happy to go through the variances again as I did last month if you'd like me to. So I'll start with the wall signs. So the first standard that they're requesting relief from is the quantity of signs. Our ordinance permits a maximum of 1 sign on the facade of the building, and our definition of facade in our zoning ordinance is the street facing elevation. So that would permit a single sign on the north side of the building facing Treadway Drive. They're proposing, as stated, as you can see here, not only are they proposing signs on the east and south elevation, both of those signs would require variance. They are proposing 2 signs on each of those sides. So there's a number of variances involved in that. And then they're proposing a second sign on that street facing elevation. The second standard which they're requesting relief from is for the material of the sign. Our ordinance requires either channel letters, flat cut acrylic, PVC, metal, wood, or routed or etched wood or like material or static neon signs. They're proposing 3 of these logo signs, which are described as internally illuminated flex face with translucent vinyl graphics. So those are not a permitted sign material. The third standard for which they're seeking relief is from the overall dimensions, the letter height of the individual letters on those signs. For a building that is less than 100 feet from the street, the maximum height of a logo or letter is 24 inches. If it's a channel letter type sign, which is what this is, and the maximum height for a non-channel letter sign is 36 inches. They're proposing a community, again, this community logo sign, 72 inches, 2 of them, and 2 of them are 72 inches tall, and 1 of them is 48 inches tall. So they're exceeding the maximum letter height for a sign. The next standard that they're seeking relief from is the overall height of a sign. And again, our ordinance permits individual letters to be a certain height, 24 inches, but the overall sign, which could be a combination of different letters, arranged in a different manner. The maximum height for this building would be 36 inches. If it's an internally illuminated type sign, if it's not internally illuminated, they could have a sign that's as large as 48 inches tall. And again, they're proposing 72 inches for one of these logo signs, 48 inches for the other two. And then the next standard that they're seeking relief from is from the additional standards section, which states that all signs shall be applied to the first story facade and not project vertically above the roof line. So again, they're proposing 3 community logo signs on the second story of the building. Finally, under additional standards as well, there is a prohibition on the use of vinyl to create any design, and what that's intended to do is prevent large white box types of signs that are glowing. And so that they're proposing a 3 community logo signs with vinyl as the design. So those are the extent of the variances being requested for the wall signs. Let me go to the monument sign here. The monument sign that's being proposed is, pull up the dimensions here. They're proposing a 4-foot tall by 6-foot wide monument sign, all brick with a stone cap and what appears to be non-illuminated brushed aluminum lettering and logos. And so there's only one variance being requested with respect to the monument sign, and that is from the maximum letter height or letter and logo height. They're proposing a 1 foot 5 inch logo, whereas our ordinance permits only a 12 inch letters and logos. So that's it. That's all they're asking for. I will note that there's an error in the staff report here, which I noticed today, and I'll confess I copied and pasted the one from last month. And so there was a couple things that I left in there, which I should have taken out. Under the discussion section, it says to comply with the Munster zoning code, the applicant could amend their sign plan as follows. And there are the last 2 bullet points. Reduce the size of the monument sign to 18 square feet. And the last bullet point, redesign the monument sign with solid materials rather than cabinet. Those are not applicable in this case because they are in compliance with those 2.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderwood. I will note that as documented in the minutes and from my recollection, the public hearing was opened and closed with no remonstrances at last month's meeting. What questions do the boards have of Mr. Vanderwood before we move forward? Our petitioners here?
I think there was a remonstrance at the last meeting. Yeah.
Somebody had called in.
Yeah, on Zoom.
I don't recall his name now, but.
It's Michael. Yeah.
Yeah, so,
He's on the line again tonight, so I don't know if you want to reopen the public hearing or not.
he's on again tonight.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, my personal opinion, I would read the public hearing, give someone a chance to speak if they were here. That's-
We will reopen the public hearing. Is there anyone present in the room or online who wishes to speak to this agenda item and this agenda item only?
Looks like Michael Gepford is unmuted himself.
Yeah, Michael Gepford, 10380 Oxford Place. Thanks for opening up the meeting again. I mean, the designs did change, so I appreciate the opportunity to speak again. You know, they're less out of compliance, but they're still out of compliance. And again, just to support the decision that we made to have these sign ordinances, I've been to communities that have similar sign ordinances, and it's fantastic. You know, I don't live in those communities, but I've only visited them, and all the places that I was looking to find had no trouble getting to them. They weren't clearly marked, but I still found where I was going, and it was fantastic. It was not a billboard, you know, driving down a main throughway. You know, it wasn't just a big billboard here, billboard there, billboard everywhere. You know, it's a great ordinance. Let's stick to it. You know, they are asking for variances, and from what I've read, the variances have to indicate a hardship. Well, this is a brand new building. What's the hardship? You know, I know you guys have approved some signage requests for other places, but there were factors that prohibited them from complying. This is a brand new building. They can totally adhere to every single part of this. And this is what we wanted for our community. I mean, they want to be in our community. Let's have them be a part of it and the way that we're looking for. You know, they stressed last month that they wanted to have continuity throughout the development and that the other signs were different. And yes, they were different. They didn't have this same sign ordinance to deal with. And I'm all for the continuity. I think it'd be great. Let's do continuity. Go back and change those older buildings to comply with the sign codes that we have in place today. And then we'll have you know, even better signage in those older buildings. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Gebhardt. Is there anybody else who wishes to address this petition? Once, twice, three times. I will reclose the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Do petitioners want to add anything from what Mr. Vanderwood said? Please go ahead and state your name and address for the record.
Dave Oddie, I'm with Community Foundation, 15014 West 153rd at Cedar Lake. We did make significant changes through the signs. This sign, we removed the entire box that was above it. We reduced the height of it. We made it all out of masonry. The signs that were on the building, we also dropped down. The immediate care was up on the second floor. We dropped it down to the first floor. We reduced all the birdhouse signs as far as size. And you can see how small it's starting to get in proportion with the building. The thing that's difficult, this is in an area where you've got Cardiology Associates, the CDC building, Fitness Point, which were all done under the old sign requirements. So do we change the signage on 3 buildings for 1 new building? I think there should be some leeway that all these signs fit together. I mean, it's a neighborhood basically, and they should all look similar. Is there any questions? I mean, we're trying to fit into the neighborhood. We want to make it look all congruent and nice. It's a beautiful building. And the other thing that's difficult is that building it's wide out in the open. I mean, you have basically a front on 3 sides of the building. The main front sits on Treadway, but also you have the big front on Calumet Avenue, and then the south elevation is easily seen too when you're going north on Calumet Avenue. It's a beautiful building. We're trying to keep the standards way up in Munster, and just like you to approve it.
Mr. Raffin, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just gonna give you a little perspective. That sign's only 6 by 5, 6, right?
It's really reduced. This was quite a
So
bit bigger.
basically, if I was standing on the wall and I put my hands out, it's basically arm to arm, I'm 6'1". Yeah, that's a visualization on this wall, how big that sign is. It's not a very big sign.
But when you put it up
It's even
25
smaller.
feet,
Right,
it
right.
gets lost on the building. I mean, we've reduced it to the point where
I can also see the need for immediate care because
people will be coming from every direction and want to know where that
the
building
problem
is.
is, and you can see on every social media post of what's up Munster, the ERs are packed in Munster because the closing of Franciscan, people are looking and they're going these ERs. And I don't know, what's your rate on how much the
Well,
ERs have
that's-
increased?
the
I wasn't here
next-
last month, you know?
We're coming before you for the garage in the next meeting. We're adding 343 parking spaces to our garage. Our ED's gone from like 53,000 visits up to 65,000. So we're short parking spaces. We've got, since you said Franciscan closing, our business is getting crazy.
Right.
So
Well, here's the thing, every time my daughter was, I called her Evil Knievel, her name's Ava, so we used to call her Ava Knievel, so I would always go to the, stitches and all that kind of stuff. I would drive to one in St. John for stitches or an x-ray and stuff like that, and not knowing the place. I appreciate having an immediate care on there because as a dad trying to get your kid with a broken arm or stitches, I want to be able to see the building. That's my opinion. That sign is not monstrous on immediate care. It blends in with the building. And looking at the community logo signs on top of the building, they're not that big of signs. And I'm the biggest proponent for beating down signs and sign ordinances and stuff like that, but it's a pretty big building. I just hope you don't have them like a flashing strobe light, like the kidney dialysis signs been going for 6 months, flashing at nighttime all night long. I think I'm gonna stroke out one night looking at it from my backyard. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Rappin. Ms. Mayor, any questions for the petitioner?
I have no questions. I'll make a motion to approve this request as it's presented today.
I'll second.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a statement as the liaison?
Please.
Thank you. I just want to say I understand the desire to have them be similar to those in the development already. The one thing that I'm thinking, because I was part of the sign ordinance, making a stricter sign ordinance, and it was so that the entire town would feel better or look better. But so if we're looking at things by area and you're coming in off of Calumet, if every business says, well, they have the old science or sign, they're following the old sign ordinances across the street, why should we have to make it? We'll never be
Right,
able to
you'll
make
never.
it look better. So, and I'm not saying that, I'm not giving an opinion on whether or not this one should or should not be approved as you're presenting it. My question is basically, since now the hospital owns all of that, is that going to be the what you present for every single building going forward? Because then we have an entire area where we haven't been able to improve and meet our ordinance. That's.
I guess being in immediate care, we want everybody to know where it is. The buildings that'll probably follow in that area will be more like hopefully doctor suites, and we won't need as impactful signage.
And that was my question. That's why I just wanted to make, because that is a huge piece of property. And our resident who commented, he had a good point, is that you can go back and change other signs to then meet, because at some point they're going to have to be replaced. And I think the ones at Fitness Point weren't redone too long ago, but at some point we could make everything go in the other direction and be more consistent. So that was just something to think of, because it is a large property overall when you take the entire.
Yeah, I believe there's 37 acres left there to develop.
So that's just my observation.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment too? And I just wanted to add, because I'm not sure if you were here last month. Either of you were. So in the meeting last month, we had asked Dave to go back to the drawing board because the sign request was so much larger than it is today. And there was a comment made at the meeting, I think I don't know if it was by Dave or your sign guy, that about the neighboring building signage. And we did say, at that time that, that's why we have a new code. We're trying to improve upon, what is there now for the future. So I think this is a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think we scaled down quite a bit. I mean, I just hope we don't have to get any smaller, because I think it's not gonna fit the building if we go much smaller.
So I do appreciate petitioner's efforts to revise the previous request. And I certainly do not want to get into the cycle of continuing petitions because we don't have a full quorum. And so I'd be inclined to support most of the variance requests. The one that I do have some concern with is the material for the logo sign. I can understand the size, the height of the letters, just have concerns about the material.
We can certainly go back and look at that.
What
If it's the same size, is there something that's closer you work with staff? If it was approved tonight to have the materials that light up and match what the sign is? I mean, is that possible? I mean, I'm not a sign expert, so it's out of my wheelhouse.
I would say that I have seen other community birdhouse signs that do comply with our material standards. One example would be the logo that's on the monument sign shown there. It's
But that's not
It's not
internally
illuminated.
illuminated.
Yeah, is the illumination.
right.
What's the signage on the hospital now? Up way up
It's
top?
illuminated. That sign's probably 12 foot by 12 foot.
I know it's big, but is it the same kind of material or?
Yes, it's the idea of, backlighting it and
Right.
so it stands out.
I mean, we can certainly work with his sign contractor, the community sign contractor, to figure it out. I would say we can recommend something, we can approve something. It's up to the applicant to develop something that would comply. I don't think it would be impossible to comply with our material standard for that sign. That's what you're asking. I mean, I think that there is a solution there.
Is there, in our sign ordinance, is there an internally illuminated sign option?
There is, but it's basically, again, the way that it works is not by just having a large light box with a translucent vinyl applied over it, because part of the aesthetic direction that the sign ordinance is pushing towards is limiting the amount of light to only what's necessary really to illuminate, talking about internal illumination, to illuminate the elements of the sign. So for example, channel letters are permitted because it's individual letters that are illuminated. You could not have a big box where you just wrote community hospital in maroon lettering or something, and the entire thing would be illuminated. So that's what they have to do with the logo, and it could be done through various means. I mean, they can take a opaque metal face and round it out so that just, for example, just the white, I don't know what those, it looks like a person maybe. The sort of the logo on that shape. But there's a way to do it. Yeah.
Ms. Mayor, would you be willing to entertain an amendment to your original motion?
I would absolutely. Yeah, so the wording would be for those logo signs to as size as presented, but materials to be modified to meet code, working with the staff.
Yeah, that variance is identified right here on the staff report, so I'll be, I can know which one it is. So all the variances with the exception of the one related to the material.
Mr. Rappin, do you accept the caveat?
Before I make a second, I'd like to hear from the petitioner. Is that something that you're comfortable before we vote on something? It's not something you want to do. I'd like to know what maybe you guys have a direct, that's something you could work out or come up with a design that meets the size that's approved on that. I mean, I hate to see you have to come back. If you come back and the sign guy says like, I don't know what the sign.
Yeah, that's my biggest concern is what impact it'll have.
Right. Now, you're still far enough away. You're still putting an outlet.
Right,
box out there.
we
You
have time, that's why
Right. You
yeah.
have time. Is it something, I think it's maybe a worthy conversation you might be able to have just to see.
So I
You got
guess-
the sizes all approved. You got the locations approved. Now it's working with staff.
So do we table it again and then, no? And say we'll come
Unless
back.
you want to.
I mean, if you want
No,
to
but
come
what-
back, that's fine. Right?
But what happens if
I guess I don't want to
30
table
days.
it and lose,
you
yeah.
don't want to have to go through a whole public hearing again?
Totally
If you
agree.
want to change to come back. So I
Mr.
would,
Whitman, we could table just that one particular aspect.
I think you can. Do that. I have a question.
That'll give us time to go back to our sign legacy supplier and let him come up with some options and see if we feel we can get the desired outcome.
Is there, I have a question about the design of that. Is there a soffit there at where that logo
It's
sign
built
is?
out, isn't it?
Is there a 2-foot overhang?
There is an overhang in those gable ends.
So couldn't you have lighting that were to shine on that logo?
Definitely an option.
Right.
Yeah.
You got time to do it now, if you want to put a light.
Yeah,
shine on it.
that's, the goal was to make sure that we had the electric rubbed in for these locations. That was part of it too, because we're gonna get there quickly.
So, Mr. Audi, do you want a continuance for just this variance, or do you want to move forward with Ms. Mayor's amended motion?
I guess I'd like to come back next month with some options and work with Tom to get this resolved. But it sounds like we're okay with all the sizes and locations.
And I would guess if you came up with a solution that Tom's comfortable with, you're comfortable with, you don't have to come back in front of us at all. I don't have to see it again as long as it.
If that,
It's up to you.
that's fine, yeah,
Well, that would be a difference than, that would not be
table them.
So if everything was approved with the exception of the variance for the material, and they came back with a sign that met that standard, then there would be no need for a variance.
Right.
Right.
At that point, so there would be no need for them to come back. They would just withdraw that.
But we'll keep
Part
it
of the
open at
application.
table in case you want to come back, then you have to reopen a public hearing or.
That would be
So then,
best.
Ms. Mayor, do you want to restate your motion to indicate tabling of the variance for materials?
Yes.
So the mo-
As stated.
the motion on the floor is to approve all variances except for that of the materials, and that in addition, the variance request for the materials be tabled until the April meeting. Mr. Raffin, do you second that?
I will second that.
Is there any question on the motion to pass the variances except for the materials which will be tabled? Hearing or seeing none, Mr. Vanderwood, please call the roll.
Sharon Mayor,
Yes.
Roland Raffin.
Yes.
Daniel Buckler.
Yes, the motion carries unanimously. It is passed. Mr. Adi, you have most of your variances, and we may or may not see you next month.
Thank you very much.
You are most welcome.
Appreciate it.
Okay, moving along in our agenda, the findings of fact, BZA 22-16, Munster Properties LLC, et cetera. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
There's been a motion by Mr. Raffin to approve as presented. Ms. Mayor, do you second that?
I do.
By Ms. Mayor, any question on the motion? Hearing or seeing none, Mr. Vanderwood, please call the roll.
Sharon Mayor,
Yes.
Roland Raffin,
Yes.
Daniel Buckler.
Yes, motion passes. BZA 23-01, Matthew Bonnet requesting garage variance, et cetera. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
There's been a motion by Mr. Raffin to approve as presented. Is there support?
Yes, second.
By Ms. Mayor. Any question on the motion? Hearing or seeing none, Mr. Vanderwood, please call the roll.
Sharon Mayor,
Yes.
Roland Raffin.
Yes.
Daniel Buckler.
Yes, motion carries unanimously. Moving along in the agenda, other business, and this is a request for determination whether electric vehicle charging stations are permitted accessory use. Mr. Vanderwood, please tell us what this is all about.
Gladly. Pull up the report here. Not much to see on this report. There's no plans or anything like that, but I just thought I had it on screen. Something to look at, but, in November of last year, I came to the BZA requesting some direction on whether or not electrical vehicle charging stations could be considered an accessory use in our business districts. While there's no reference specifically to this, I'm just going to call them EV chargers, to EV chargers in our zoning ordinance, there is kind of a catch-all provision in all of our business districts that say any accessory use that's customarily found in this district is permitted. And the sort of impetus for this was a proposal from the Tesla company to install EV charging stations in the target parking lot. Like I said, our zoning ordinance didn't address it specifically, so rather than simply say, okay, yeah, it's fine, we wanted to come to the board and say, here's our thoughts, let us know if you concur on this, and if so, we can move forward with this particular project. So as I think you're aware, where there are questions of interpretation with respect to any zoning standard, the BZA can make a determination on areas of ambiguity. So that's what we're doing tonight. At that November meeting, we had a discussion, and specifically we stated, like from the staff perspective, we have in our codes and standards regulations that relate to the screening of mechanical equipment, regulations for signs, and regulations for parking, which we think would all govern any EV charging station within another business's parking lot. So for example, as you can see sort of on there, there are certain mechanical equipment that needs to be installed with some of these different fast charging stations. Those would all be required to be screened under our ordinance. There are signage standards. We only permit directional signs of a certain size. And then any spaces that would be set aside for these EV chargers would have to be out of a surplus of parking on the lot for that, whatever's required for that use. So we believe that those areas of concern would be addressed by our existing standards. And we think that we would be able to permit this type of thing in a commercial parking lot with little to no impact. So therefore, our position was, we believe that we should permit these as an accessory use. In November, the board kind of discussed some of these things, and they directed me to go out and do a little bit more research and see what some other communities are doing. So I have compiled a number of resources. I think they're listed in the staff report, but I reviewed about 5 different, not original sources, but little like guidebooks for how to implement EV charging in a community. You know, how to use zoning to protect the community from negative externalities. What are best practices related to these types of uses? Generally speaking, well, actually not generally speaking, but to a T, every single one of these resources said these should be permitted as accessory uses in business districts. Now, there's some other standards in residential districts that they would say if you're going to, for example, you would permit certain things in a residential district, but other things you wouldn't permit. So for example, like a Tesla charging station, you wouldn't allow that in somebody's driveway. But yeah, so basically every best practice is to permit these things. Just make sure that you have standards that address those items that we already talked about: screening, parking, and signage. And if you were to look at an actual best case scenario, you would have specific standards dealing with EV chargers. So you have a specific sign standard for them. You'd have a specific screening standard, and you'd have a specific parking standard. That would be the absolute best way to go forward on this. But I think in the absence of that in our code, as I mentioned, we already have things that I'm comfortable with that could address those issues. And then I'll also mention that I also reviewed the Indiana State EV deployment plan. And that was an interesting read. It didn't recommend any kind of standards or ways to regulate them, but what it did is say that it's essentially the policy of the state of Indiana to promote EV infrastructure so that we can convert our fleets from gasoline to electric. So the state of Indiana is actively planning for the deployment of EV infrastructure. They're looking for locations to install this along I-80. You know, the 80 corridor is one of the most important locations for that, is because it's so heavily traveled. So I think that's another, just kind of a bit of information that I think is relevant. Then. There's one other aspect of this that I wanted to mention. Oh, yeah, so then I did look at a number of different communities in Indiana. There's not that many actually that are regulating EV chargers specifically. I found a handful. I was able to talk to the planning and building director in Maryville, and they have something that looks almost identical to that in the parking lot of the Meyer on US 30, which you can find if you go to the Tesla website. It'll show you all the locations of all the stations. Spoke with, her name is Sheila Shine, and she said they've never had any issues with any kind of traffic congestion, people hanging out or loitering around these stations. The only issue they ever had was that they planted some arborvitaes around it's kind of like the utility compound, and they got burned up by the heat from the compound, so they have to replace that with a fence.
Well, then I think you want to look at like a brick, something nice to put around that, just affects it with snow plows and everything else.
Well, yeah, that's a great point. And as I was saying, we already have standards for screening, so we've got those in place. So anything that got, if it, I think we would permit a fence screen. It would have to be wood or PVC would not be permitted. It would have to be, I think, natural wood, or it could be a masonry wall.
I think you want to try to masonry wall so it stands test of time in the parking lot.
Mr. Randall, a couple of questions. Who would be the owner of the EV stations?
So in this instance, it's owned, the actual infrastructure is owned by the Tesla company, but the land underneath it is owned by Target.
So who would be responsible for the stations themselves?
Maintenance.
So the maintenance of the infrastructure would be the Tesla company.
It's probably very similar to like those windmill fields where they're leasing that land from farmers and putting those windmills up. I think it would operate very similar.
Who would be legally responsible for the stations?
For the equipment, Tesla.
So Tesla is changing the arborvitae's in Maryville when they get burnt up.
Yeah, okay, it is Tesla.
So if we did have any problems, then we'd have to go to Tesla, not Target.
Correct.
Is there an opportunity for any revenue for the town here?
I don't think for this particular type. Of course, the town would be free to install EV chargers on our own property. In fact, we already have. So I'm not sure how much, I don't think we get much revenue from it, but yeah, I'll just also point out that there are other places in town where these have been installed, like community hospital, for example, and our parks.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Mayor, please.
when I was reading through the staff report, I noticed that you had, and I don't have it in front of me now, so I'm working from memory, but there were some communities that had differentiated between the type, I think it was like type 1, type 2, and type 3, right? And 3 is the Tesla rapid charging station.
Yes.
It requires 480 volt 3-phase power. So if that power is available from the utility, then why would it need to be handled differently from the other two?
It's not the power that really makes a difference. It's kind of the nature of how it's used, because if you have a level 3, it charges up much more quickly. So there's more in it, like people stop there for 40 minutes rather than overnight. So I think that's the biggest difference from sort of a zoning standpoint. I don't know myself. I mean, I can't answer why they need different sort of equipment on site for that. I I don't know if that's.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can see that because the power needs are so great. That's why they're requiring the 480 volt three phase, right? So in order to charge a car that quickly, you know, that much power has got to be available to charge. So I understand that. What I didn't understand was why there would be a difference in the handling of it. That's what, from a perspective of the zoning.
Think of it like this, somebody could put a level 1 at their house. And they'll use it and they'll use it overnight or whatever. A level 3, it's more of a quick charger, so it has a potential for a different, you know, use, more frequent uses. I think that's really why they're trying to distinguish that. And my recollection from the reports that I read were that not necessarily prohibiting that, but making it a conditional use in a residential district so that you can go through the process and verify, is this just for you or is this for some other? Are you going to put it in your driveway and have other people using it?
But as far as we're looking at it, only in commercial districts, right?
So the way that our zoning ordinance currently reads is that catch-all provision, a accessory use customarily in this district, that would only be applicable in a commercial district. So CD4, A, B, CD5 in our M district. And P.
So, that would never come into play then, since we're only looking at it from a commercial use.
Right.
Mr. Raffin, do you have any questions?
Just one more. Obviously, you know, when you bring up town monster community, those are local people, these stations that are taking care. I just want to make sure we have enforcement in place, so we have a national brand bringing these things in here, that we have protections in there to make sure they are capped and safe and everything else. You're dealing with a whole outside national brand compared to local use and operators, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. And, you know, all of our normal standards would apply. So anytime anybody does anything in town that's the same, you know, they're subject to the same standards with respect to maintenance, safety. And, but I do see your point as far as having someone that we can call. That's just something that we have to do administratively, just to make sure we have contact information. I mean, we could probably make them register as a business since they're operating a business. And that would be a way that we can maintain a, you know, record and up-to-date contacts.
I think that'd be a requirement. Mr. Vanderwood, is the town's existing electrical infrastructure sufficient to accommodate these new level 3?
No, not by the plan. They're bringing the power from Calumet Avenue to that box inside the parking lot. They have three phase 480 there at the street, but they have to bring it over to that site.
Is there any concern from the town's perspective about doing that?
I mean, our only concern would be that it would have to be brought in on the ground and it couldn't be brought in on an overhead.
Yeah,
line.
and they're showing it underground.
Mr. Vanderwood, do you need a motion or what do you need?
I would like a motion just affirming that, I think it's listed in the report here, just a motion affirming or confirming that EV charging stations are to be considered a use that is subordinate and customarily incidental to a permitted principal use. And if you want to just assent to this, what I'm saying, that's probably fine too.
What is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve, but I'd like the town to make sure those are masonry structures, not just fences around the accessory stuff.
Sure.
And that the businesses registered businesses.
Yeah. but you can add another thing too.
Is there support for Mr. Raffин's motion?
Yes, I'll second.
By Ms. Mayor. Any question on the motion? Hearing or seeing none, Mr. Vanderwood, please call the roll.
Chair Mayor,
Yes.
Roland Griffin,
Yes.
and Daniel Buster.
Yes. Motion passes. Mr. Vanderwood, do you need anything else on this agenda?
I do not, thank you.
Great, thank you. The next regular meeting of the BZA is April 11th, 2023, and there being no further business before the board, what is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Raffin, second by Ms. Mayor, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 7:33. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance and participation.
See you next month.
No, I'm saying, I was, no. Hey, fuck yeah.
Come up next week.
Okay. Sharon,
For you, Mr. Baker.
Oh, I'm sorry to make you come here. You're doing the swearing in?
I am.
I'm sorry I was on
You
vacation.
told me twice.
I was.
It's all good. It's all good. Are we ready? Am I interfering?
This is part, this is part.
Let's, all right, I'll sit
Start the meeting?
I'll sit
Okay.
back down.
Let's, yeah,
I
okay.
wasn't.
It is Tuesday, March 14, 2023. It is 7:36. I will call the meeting to order. Would everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That being said, we'll move into the swearing in of Mr. Baker.
Mr. Baker, congratulations. You've
Thank
been
you.
reappointed by the town council to the Plan Commission. So you ready?
I am.
I, William Baker,
I, William Baker,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United
the
States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and the Constitution of the State of Indiana.
and that I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as a member of
as a member of
the Munster Plan Commission,
the Munster Plan Commission,
according to law,
according to law,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Welcome to the Plan
Thank
Commission.
you.
Now, if I could have your John Hancock here, I will
Go
file
home.
this. I am going to go home. And I will file this with the county. Have a nice night, everyone. Enjoy. Enjoy. Make good decisions.
Tom, would you please call roll?
Yes, Counselor Mellon,
Present.
Counselor Kulturitis,
Present.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Present.
Rachel Branigan,
Present.
Bill Baker,
Present.
Brian Speck is absent with notice. Roland Raffen.
Here. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from February 14th, 2023. Have we had a chance to review the minutes? If so, what is the pleasure of the commission?
Mr. Chairman, I move that I have had a chance to review the minutes, and I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The next item is election of officers. We have three tonight. We have a president, a vice president, and executive secretary.
Mr. President, I would move to nominate Bill Baker as president of the Plan Commission.
Second. We have a motion and a second for Mr. Baker as president of the Planning Commission. Is there any discussion? Being none, I'll do a roll. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
If I oppose, would that be funny?
Motion passes. The next item
Thank
is,
you very much.
you're welcome. Next item is the role of vice president.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would nominate Rachel Branigan for the role of vice president.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Next item is executive secretary. I don't remember doing this one time.
No,
before,
it's,
Right,
Just
that's what I
Tom.
thought. Yeah, that's what I thought.
oh.
Well, we still have to make a motion for it, right?
You could
Yep.
be
Right.
doing it, but
Mr. Chairman, I
All right.
might as well go
3 for 3.
Yeah.
And I would nominate Tom Vanderwood as the executive secretary.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Next item, appointment of the plat committee. What did we do last time on this one?
well, I guess I have a question for you. At this point, Bill Baker has been
Yeah,
nominated
right.
to you take the chairmanship, so you
You're on the
can
clock.
hand the gavel to him.
Thank you. I'll take the gavel. Who's going to be on the Plan Committee?
So we need at least 2 members of the Plan Commission and 1 other person. In years past, or last year it was Steve Tulowitzki, Brian Speck, myself. But I would recommend that you select 2 members from among your body here.
And they can be both citizens and elected officials?
Traditionally, it's been the citizen members, but there is no legal requirement that be the case.
We have an explanation of what the plat committee.
Yeah, the Plan Committee is a subset of the Plan Commission, and it has the authority to approve minor subdivision plats, or preliminary plats of minor subdivisions. Minor subdivisions being a residential subdivision made up of no greater than, I think, 3 lots, and with no public rights of way or no public road dedications. So what it allows these very minor, like lot consolidations, to be approved without a public hearing and approved in 2 meetings rather than multiple.
I think you should try it out.
I also just became a member of the band backers today.
That's
So,
good.
you know.
I would just say, at least in previous years, As in tonight's meeting, there's been a plat commission meeting directly after this meeting. They're usually 5 to 10 minutes.
Oh.
And it's usually when, in the years when I've been serving, it's been when someone wants to put a house on like 2 lots.
So it's
In that area,
small,
it's a pretty,
small commitment.
it's a pretty light lift unless something.
Sounds like Rachel wants to do
Yes,
that.
I want to do it, yes.
I'll nominate Rachel Griffin for the flag commission.
Second. So, but we need one more, plus yourself, because you get to do it, right? Because you get paid a lot more than we do, right?
I don't get paid any extra for being here tonight.
On the plat committee? No, really.
But I'll happily do it.
I'll happily point that out to the elected officials. So we need one more. Roland, what about you? I'm not moving this along.
That's fine.
All right, and Roland, and you.
So I would nominate Roland, I would also like to nominate Roland Brecken for.
Excellent. Second. So we have 2 appointments and we need 3. Mr. Vanderwood and yourself. We don't have to vote on you, right?
You should, yes.
All right.
Patrick.
You can just approve.
So
this.
Councilman, are you gonna nominate
Yeah,
Mr. Vanderwood?
Also nominate Mr. Vanderwood.
All right.
First name Thomas to the flag.
Is there a second?
Also.
And a second. So we have Rachel Brannigan, Roland Raff, and Tom Vanderwood have been appointed, and there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Be there none, we'll call vote, please.
Counselor Mellon.
Yes.
Counselor Kulturitis.
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki.
Yes.
Rachel Brannigan.
Yes.
Roland Raffin.
Yes.
Bill Baker.
Absolutely. Moving right along, there's no preliminary hearings. Is that true, Mr. Vanderwood?
Yes.
Next up is public hearing, PC 22-023 OKW Architects on behalf of Simber Development requesting approval of development plan for 9,000 square feet of warehouse space, additional truck doors, new parking, et cetera, at 9200 Calumet Avenue. Mr. Vanderwood.
I'll pull up this plan on the screen so we can all look at it. This is an application for approval of the development plan for an addition to the Lake Business Center. The addition is a 9,000 square foot connection between the south warehouse and the north warehouse. There's no intent to do anything in this addition besides provide an access way between the 2 warehouses. Pepsi Cola is currently leasing this portion that's identified with the dotted line in the north warehouse and leasing the entirety of the south warehouse. So this connection will allow them to move trucks in between the 2 warehouses. In addition to the warehouse connection, there's also on these plans proposal to landscape this area between the 2 warehouses facing Calumet Avenue, and then kind of reconfigure the parking lot on the southwest corner, adding some landscaping and sort of formalizing that parking area, adding additional parking spaces along the south edge of the north warehouse, and then adding new truck docks there on the southwest corner of the north warehouse.
Mr. Vanderwood, is this a new amendment to the development plan? Is this a new development plan? How is this being presented? I thought this was a PUD.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, the board voted to forward a favorable recommendation to amend the planned unit development for the Lake Business Center to permit this to happen. The plans that were presented as part of that PUD amendment were just more generalized version, a more general version of this plan. The development plan is the implementation of that zoning change that was recommended. So it has more detail with respect to the landscaping, the parking layout, and some of the other items that were requested by the Plan Commission, including a designation of a future area for a connection to the Maple Leaf Crossing, Maple Leaf Boulevard connection, as well as a potential landscape screen on that southwest corner. So yes, the PUD is under, it will be forwarded to the town council probably at their next meeting to approve. So any approval of this development plan would be made conditioned upon that zoning change going into effect.
Is this a vote or is this a recommendation to the town council?
So this is a vote to approve the development plan, but I would recommend that it be conditioned, as I said, upon the ultimate approval of the plan unit development.
Thank you. All right, this is a public hearing, so is there somebody that would like to speak on behalf of the project before I open it up to the public?
Appears to me that the applicants are here.
Game time. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for coming. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
David Bender, 11246 Hiawatha Lane, Indian Head Park, Illinois. Yeah, as Tom presented, we are seeking development plan approval for this addition between the two buildings. Pepsi's in need of this connection for moving trucks and forklifts and product between the two warehouses they have today. So this is why we're proposing this 9,000 square foot addition between the buildings. We're also landscape in front, that can fill in that lawn space and add parking in the rear with landscape islands and curbs that meet current standards, ordinance standards. In addition to that, we're matching materials on the front elevation. We'll be using a metal panel that's vertically installed that matches the medical office building and a brick base that matches as well. Lighting, we're modifying some lighting, existing lighting, all the lighting will be 3,000 K for township request. We have some lighting that we're adding along the building and in the parking lot, so that's also part of the plan approval. It's a pretty simple building, so that's pretty much all there is to it. If you guys have any questions?
Great, thank you. Is there any, bring it back to the commission, any questions for the petitioner?
Mr. Baker,
Yes, sir.
is the plan, once this is done, is all traffic going to be going out on Maple Leaf Crossing? At the light, future light there? Truck traffic,
Truck traffic, yes.
all
Yes.
semis, and even out of the existing plant that's right there, is that going to be going out on Maple Leaf too?
Well, that was a discussion, that was a point of discussion at the hearings for the planning and development. And the commitment from the property owner was that, yes, they would have trucks use Maple Leaf Crossing or Maple Leaf Boulevard once it's constructed. So they have, you can't really see it here on this on the screen, but basically there's a dotted area that says future connection to Maple Leaf Crossing or Maple Leaf Boulevard. So the intent is, yeah, to eliminate any truck traffic from exiting here, which is currently where all the Pepsi trucks exit onto Calumet Avenue. Right. It's an unsignalized intersection. So the idea would be to divert them out here, which is not shown on the plan here, but this is where Maple Leaf Boulevard would ultimately be constructed. But because that's not constructed yet, they can't obviously build a connection to it.
But the plan would be to use that instead of, like right now, I was there the other day, 5 o'clock, the Pepsi trucks coming across, 4 lanes of traffic, blocking all of Calumet Avenue because the light's red. And anyone going south can't go anywhere because there's cabs going in northbound lanes, there's trailers in the southbound lanes. Completely blocking the whole place.
I thought they weren't on it on high traffic periods.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock rush hour and Pepsi clock, and the whole Calumet Avenue shut down.
Interesting. Did you get your question answered,
Well, I
Mr.
just
Rath?
want to make sure there's obviously some kind of plan for putting the docks and spaces and trucks are going to be going to signalized light once it's completed.
Yeah, we plan to use that access plan to design that.
I mean, I wouldn't make any kind of motion without some kind of condition that that's the way truck traffic should be routed.
Understood. Any other questions? I have one. Wasn't this connected back when it was still the Simmons plan? Are you familiar with it back then?
Not familiar.
No. Now, when you open that up, obviously you're going to lay it to the point where you're going to open both buildings to be able to connect the two warehouses.
Yep.
So it's not going to be a big warehouse.
Yes.
10-4. There's no other access points in and out of that particular connection. It's just going to be a building.
Yeah, connection between the two sides of the building.
Thank you.
I think in the staff report, it said in 2012 that connection was removed, if I'm not mistaken. Mr. President, or Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
mine is more of just a comment I read about the lighting. And just to reiterate, at 3,000 Kelvin, you're going to do that. The reason it's important is because
Yeah,
we're
we don't-
expecting traffic on the.
And we don't want to get inconsistency.
Okay. That was my only comment.
All right, any other questions for the petitioner? Thank you, sir. All right, unless anything, unless anyone has something to say, I'm going to open it up to the public. All right, public hearing is open on this matter. If you'd like to speak to it, help us with it, come up, speak. If not, roll your piece. Going once, going twice, 3 times. All right, I'm closing the public hearing, bringing it back to the commission. What say you?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve PC docket number 22023.
You don't have to read it.
Okay, no, I'm not gonna read it. As long as we have receipt of a compliant lighting plan, and as well as noted that truck traffic will be economically crossing Boulevard.
Motion with contingency. Is there a second?
Question, does that also includes town council approval of the plan unit development?
That will exclude on PD.
Second. And a second discussion. So to the councilman's point, that it includes going to the town council with the recommendation of this vote, and any other discussion, either not, Mr. Vanderwood.
Councilor Mellon,
Yes.
Councilor Kulturitis.
Yes.
Councilor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Rachel Brannigan.
Yes.
Roland Rappen.
Yes.
Bill Baker.
Yes. Congratulations. Good luck with that project. Moving right along. Next up, PC 23-001, Community Foundation, Northwest Indiana, requesting rezoning of the property at 800 MacArthur Boulevard to a plan unit development to permit the addition of 2 stories of parking and a heliport deck to the existing 3-story parking garage. Mr. Vanderwood,
Yeah, thank you. Let me pull up this.
succinct for building 2 stories on 3 stories. It could be supported with a helipad, and it's going to be put into a new PUD. Is that correct?
That is correct. The property is currently zoned CD4A, which restricts the number of buildings on a lot to a single building and has a maximum height of 4 stories or 50 feet. The applicant is proposing to increase the height of an existing parking garage, which is 3 stories, to 5 stories with a heliport on top. So an ultimate height of approximately 65 feet. As I said, the current zoning is CD4A. At one point, this was zoned for planned unit development, but in 2019, at some point in the past, it was rezoned to a commercial district. The applicant is now seeking to zone it back to a planned unit development consistent with the PUD that community hospital is located to the north. Yeah, so this would be a zoning change, and the board is being asked to forward a recommendation to the council with respect to the change. Similar to the previous petition that we reviewed, there's a PUD amendment, so there's a zoning change, and then there's a development plan that also would need to be approved. In this case, both the PUD amendment or the zoning amendment, as well as the development plan are being presented tonight. They're essentially the same thing. It's just a matter of formality of changing the zoning, approving the development plan.
Excuse me, I have a question. If there's a PUD amendment, I thought you mentioned this is a new PUD. So what are we amending?
Correct. It's a zoning, it's a zoning amendment. Yes,
So it's not it's for a new PUD.
correct.
And they have to file the same documentations for any PUD, correct?
Yes,
So has that been taken care of?
yes.
So when we go through a PUD, I thought it was a huge process establishing a PUD.
It's in a case like this where it's such a simple change, it doesn't take that much.
Well, who said it was simple? You?
I never said it was simple or complex,
Yeah, you did.
but this particular project is simple. Where there's a more complex development such as a Maple Leaf Crossing, where you have multiple buildings, you have dedication of public roadways, you have.
I get it. Does this PUD handle the professional center as well?
Yes, the
It
professional
does.
center is to the west, yes. So that's part of the reason why it's a planned unit development is because it contains two principal structures, the parking garage and the medical office building to the west.
And nothing's happened to the medical office building to the west, because all the drawings that I was looking at, and maybe I'm not doing it very well, missed the last meeting, I'm sorry, I was on vacation, and it was worth it. This is all parking garage.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, only that, again, this has been reviewed from a zoning compatibility perspective. It makes sense that this be zoned as a planned development, given its proximity and actual physical connection to the community hospital to the north. With respect to the building materials and the architecture, it's exactly the same as what's there currently. So it's a concrete building with glass, kind of stairwell, vestibule. And so the staff reviewed this proposal, and none of the departments represented had any concerns about the structure in any way.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Vanderwood about this before I go to the public? Or for the petitioner, I'm sorry.
I have a question for the architect when they come up. I'm just interested in understanding the glazing for the stair and elevator core. I know that's not necessarily what we're discussing, but I'm just curious about it because right now the current stair and elevator core, it's glass, which I love, but it's also very bright and sometimes hot. And I just want to know if there's any tinting that if they're going to be updating, what's there. And
Okay, so that'll be for the petitioner.
yeah.
Is anything for Mr. Vanderwood? Anything else? No?
Just one
Yes,
clarification.
Councilman.
I think the other building is already in a PUD. Is that correct? The building that you were discussing was.
No, it's in this PUD.
It's on the same lot.
It's on the same plot.
Any other questions for Mr. Vanderwood? Be there none, is there somebody to speak from the petitioner on that? Mr. Adi, nice to see you again, sir.
Good to see you, Mr. Speaker. Congratulations on your new position.
Oh, thank you very much. I can always pay my water bill.
Dave Audi, Community Foundation, 15014, West 153rd, Cedar Lake. We're looking to add 2 additional floors, as Tom pointed out, along with the helipad on the 3rd floor. Construction will be identical to what's there, all concrete structure and concrete panels. As far as the elevators, the plan was to push those up exactly the way they are. Glass elevators, glass housing. We can always look at tinting them.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want it to see it like be black or, like a dark gray or anything, but just it's sometimes it's nice to have those spaces illuminated for safety purposes, but just if they get hot in the summer and
Yeah.
just wondering what the,
And maybe we can look at some ways to cool it with air conditioning. Our business has increased since some of the other local hospitals have closed down. Our ED visits went from like 50,000 almost to 60,000 in the last year. So we need the 343 additional parking spaces that this will provide for us. Is there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Adi? Thank you for that. I had one, as far as Ms. Brannigan, Rachel's question about the glazing. Is that you?
Yes, it would be basically identical.
Is it going to be a continuation of the entire structure, or are you just going to do that for the addition?
Continuation of the
So
entire
you're going
structure.
all the way to the grade?
Sorry, there.
The elevator will be just extended. The glazing will be identical to what's there.
And then what about the finish on the actual concrete? It's concrete structure, right?
It is. It'll be identical to what the lower levels are.
All right. So are you going to do the lower levels at the same time that you do the newer?
They're already done. It'll just be pushing it up to
Okay.
more levels. It's,
Thank you. And then with regards to
Yes,
the helicopter, is any glazing or any of those issues, have any issues with regards to the flight plan and all the FAA stuff, I'm sure is taken care of?
yeah, we'll make sure that that's all done appropriately and work with Lansing Airport on that.
And my other question, is there any current plans for the professional center?
Right now, no. We do like remodeling in there every once in a while, but no.
It's very retro.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, just a clarification on the glazing conversation. I think Ms. Brannigan mentioned the elevator shaft, but sorry if I didn't hear. There's also a pedway that connects to.
Yeah,
the-
second floor, there's a link that ties the parking garage into the MOB building. That's gonna stay as is.
Stay as is.
Yeah.
Would we also consider consistent, I mean, guess for the same reasons, but that one is.
It is
air
got a
conditioned,
little
isn't it?
tint on it right now, and it is ventilated, so
Okay.
we can look at improving that ventilation.
I have another question. I don't know if it's for him, maybe it's more for Tom, but, so this is the max they can go as far as height, or could they come back in a few years and say, we want to go taller and we.
I think we're out of foundation.
Sure. That's
Yeah,
also
so
what I was
we're-
thinking, the engineering.
And we also work with the town as far as fire drills. They use the tower to practice, so it works out good. We work together on that, those type of things.
Just from a zoning perspective, to be clear, this exceeds our maximum height.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why, part of the reason why it's planning to development. The idea is that it's sort of a unique type of development, right? It's adjacent to the hospital, which also exceeds that maximum height, maximum height. So this approval, if there was the ability from an engineering perspective for the building to go higher, this approval basically would limit it to what's being presented here tonight. And if they did want to change it in any way, it would be an amendment to the plan unit development. So they would have to come back to the plan commission.
That we're out of foundation capacity.
Everything needs to be done, so.
Any other questions for this young man? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, next up is opening up the public session, public speaking on this. Would you like to talk on this matter? Please come up to the microphone, state your name and address. Help us move it along. Going once, going twice. Come on, you okay now. All right, I'll close the public hearing component, bring it back to the commission. What say you?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve.
Approve. PC 23.
No,
No, 20, well, you have to say something. PC 23001.
So I think we would be.
we're at 23,023 right now.
And this is a recommendation if I'm not,
We're at 23-001, and yeah, there would be a recommendation to the council for either favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation for the approval of the plan unit development.
there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'm assuming you said favorable recommendation.
And a second. Favorable recommendation and a second. Is there any other discussion? Either none, Mr. Vanderbilt.
Counselor Mellon,
Yes.
Counselor Kulturitis,
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Rachel Brannigan.
Yes.
Roland Raffin,
Yes.
Bill Baker.
Yes. Interesting in the cycling here. PC 23-003 is the next one up, which is the Community Foundation of Northwest Indiana requesting approval of the development plan for the addition of 2 stories of a parking and a heliport deck to the existing 3-story parking garage at 800 MacArthur Boulevard. Mr. Vanderwood, I love government, so we're doing it again.
Well, this is nearly identical in the sense of the submittal, but it is a different action that the board needs to take. And that is approval of this proposal as a development plan. So again, you would be requested to approve the development plan contingent upon that the property being rezoned as a plan unit development in accordance with PC docket number 23-001.
Got it.
And this is a public hearing as well.
Got it. Any questions for Mr. Vanderwood on the difference between the PUD approval and the development plan approval? Being none, I'll open this up to the petitioner. If he would like to waive it off, that's an option too, or he can come up and explain to us what's going on.
I'll waive it off.
Thank you, sir. So that being said, I'll open up the public hearing for anybody that'd like to speak to this matter. I'm not even looking up, going once, going twice. I'm closing the public hearing, bringing it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve PC docket number 23-003, granting approval of a development plan for the addition of 2 stories of parking and a heliport deck on existing 3-story parking garage at 800 MacArthur Boulevard upon the condition that the subject property is rezoned as a PUD in accordance with BZ docket 23001.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
And a second. Any discussion? Either none, Mr. Vanderwood.
Counselor Mellon,
Yes.
Counselor Kulturitis.
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki,
Yes.
Rachel Brannigan.
Yeah.
Roland Raffin.
Yes.
Bill Baker.
Yes. Congratulations. All right, next up is finding of facts. Mr. Wickland, do I have to list all three of these separately and have a vote on each of them, or could we be efficient and package those up?
Even though it's government, I think you can be efficient.
Really? So to bang that drum, I would like to put out the next option on the agenda is the findings of fact, which is for PC 22-024, the OKW Architects for Symbor, which is also PC 23-002, which is Claudia Linus requesting approval of the development plan for medical office at 45th Street. And then PC 22025 Munster Property, which was requesting approval of development plan for medical office at 10350 Calumet Avenue. These were already voted on and taken care of. This is the final government thing. We're doing it all as one package. Bring it back to the commission. What say you?
Mr. Chair, I just have a question. Tom, with the contingencies on the Symbor one, does that have to be defined as a fact, or is that noted in the recommendation to the town council? Regarding traffic going out Maple Leaf Crossing as well as.
Good question.
That is a good question. So the findings of fact that you're approving tonight are for the plan unit development amendment, not for the development plan.
For the zoning part.
Right.
That being said, I'll make a motion to approve those three items that Mr. Baker read.
There's a motion and a second,
I'll second.
and a second. Any discussion?
I have a point of curiosity.
Yes, sir, Councilman. That would be discussion.
Tom, the 45th. I know we talked about the lighting fixtures last time. Out of curiosity, did they choose something?
They did, yeah.
And is it like something that might be a good model for other lighting fixtures in town? Is it?
Trying to remember what it looks like. I can't remember offhand what it looks like, but it was fine.
And they met the requirements.
It was sort of a hybrid. It had a traditional sort of shape, but it was more modern looking as requested by.
Well, the reason I said that just because the building itself was more modern and I wasn't necessarily suggesting it for the rest of the.
Can you send us a picture of it?
I can't even. I can't know too.
Yeah, so yeah, it's just kind of a note to, if it's something that is aesthetically pleasing, it might be something we want to incorporate into options for our zoning code or however we mandate lighting fixtures. That was my point.
Thank you. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second, Mr. Vanderwood.
Okay, Counselor Mellon,
Yes.
Counselor Kulturitis.
Yes.
Counselor Tulowitzki.
Yes.
Rachel Brannigan.
Yes.
Roland Raffin.
Yes.
Bill Baker.
Yes. Thank you. Moving along, other business, additional items for discussion. Anything? Thank you for the nod of confidence. I greatly appreciate it. Also, keep in mind, tomorrow night late, they're going to be closing down Calumet Avenue, heading northbound for work on the bicycle bridge on the Hammond side of the river. So keep that in mind. Next up is next meeting, which is April 11th, 2023. And
Mr. Baker, I think the town planner had an announcement.
Oh, I just have one comment, not related to the bridge, but as you know, we've been doing some work towards the development of a new comprehensive plan. The existing conditions report has been finalized and is posted on the website. There's a link on the town website to get to the actual comprehensive plan website. So I would encourage everyone, if you haven't looked at it already, and some of you have, to do so. And
what's the new thing, Tom, that's on there for the comp plan? What did you call it?
it's the existing conditions report. So
What does that mean?
it includes
What we have now?
Now, it includes data describing the existing conditions of the town, but it also includes all the summaries of all the public involvement events that took place over the last 6 months or so.
I personally love posting facts to what's up Munster. So that's just- I usually link to Munster.
Okay.
Can we do it?
Tom, did they close the survey then? Because or is that still open? Because I've had a couple people ask me.
Yeah, that's a
About
good
that.
question. I actually don't know offhand if that's closed or not.
Can
I think
we,
they're going to leave it open throughout basically the whole time.
Okay, I think that's good because people seem, even though we've been talking about it quite a bit, I'll have someone say to me, oh, what is this comprehensive plan? I mean, sometimes, everybody's busy and people, find out about it afterwards. So, and maybe if we can do another shout out through parks or something, just to keep people going to it if they haven't yet.
Yep, we can do that.
Thank you.
Next meeting's August, or April 11th, August. The next meeting is in August, after golf season. April 11th, 2023. Any other discussion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
By standing and seconding. Discussion on that? We don't have to vote on it anymore, do we, Mr. Whitman?
No.
No. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks for coming out, everybody. Appreciate it. Helping making this a better place to live.
That's another story, but I'm not. But anyway.
Wouldn't it be a better plan for Franciscan?
That's what it was. Yeah, they took this picture laughing. It's
Design?
a cell tower.
Yeah.
I mean, how
And
can we
I've
afford
seen,
that?
I've been in.
You know, Franciscan's got all that property.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead of
I was
going
in
to see a
California
park,
and I saw
why
palm
aren't we
trees.
just
And I
standing
thought,
there? They have to-
maybe palm trees aren't much, but something that is another slightly over their ways, their states. that are like, can't have that.
No,
Yeah, but we got to find a.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
See that?
So, I can share the, yeah, that's okay with you guys. So we'll call the meeting to order at 8:19. We have present Rachel Brannigan, Roland Rapp, and then myself, Tom Vanderwood. And there is no old business, so the only new business that we have today is PC 23-004. Linda Toomey requesting approval. Flat to this addition to town monster consolidated 2 residential lots, 8349 Craig. As I mentioned, this is what's called a minor subdivision, which means it can be approved without a public hearing by committee. And what I'm going to do, just so everyone has a sense of where this is, I'm going to move on, just find that. Find the lot.
Yeah. 8240. So it's wide orange. Correct. It must be like a beeline.
Yeah.
To.
It's there. Here.
Yeah.
So this is the existing site. There's a house. Well, I'll let the applicant explain it, but
Well, the red dot is on the house where I currently live. Bought it in 2016. To the bottom of the screen is the house that I was able to buy, right? That's, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I get a little confused. From a guy who bought his house about the same time I bought my house in 2016. And his idea was to remodel. He wasn't qualified, so it's neglected. Bad condition on the outside and even worse on the inside, tearing things up. And at one point, about 3 years ago, we finally moved out and didn't come back. So, except to get packages. So all along, when I saw what was happening, I offered and begged him to let me buy it. And I thought it was going to be a tear down. I didn't know how bad it was, but it has been determined that it's not a tear down. Which makes me very happy because I didn't want to put it in the dump. So my vision was to be able to go from the side door of my house, which you'll see is the little white underneath the red dot. That's the side door. And I have a single driveway that goes all the way to the back garage. my vision was to be able to walk out my side door through a breezeway to the second house and combine them that way when I realized that by combining the lots, I have one house. So that was something that I was already thinking of. And I have an architect and he's designed a picture of the two as we intend to build, if allowed. And the bone of contention here has been the garage that I built for my house in 2021 is on the public alley. So I was over there one day trying to find out, how did that happen? Was it my builder? You know, did he really not get permits? And so I met Tom at that point, learned a lot about the situation and what I could do about it, because at that point, it was a Friday recently, and we had decided the only thing we could do was to tear it down. Beautiful garage, only 20 by 20 though. And in 2021, so it's brand new. And I went home from the meeting with my architect to tear it down, and we presented that to Tom, and I just couldn't do it. I said, I gotta figure out something else. Can we pick it up and move it forward? What can we do? So I decided to, no matter what, I had to get off the alley because that was not gonna go.
So currently, right now, it's just too close to the alley.
It's on the alley. It's
So
actually-
you see the one to the north?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
and its placement.
It's
so
back
it's
further.
just- Yeah, just like.
Just that much. Yeah. So,
survey laid it out that way?
nevertheless, yeah,
The survey laid it out wrong.
I'm not
I
really
don't think
sure.
the survey did as much as the contractor's
Maybe even though
placement, you know, we don't know. It's,
you get the building,
I tried
building code.
I tried to pin it down, but it doesn't really matter. It
Yeah.
comes down to the fact it's on the alley, so I
Can we move
can't
it
have
back?
that. So the current drawing, I call this a plat, the survey shows it not on the alley, but not moved forward. And the way we're gonna do that is to just go in and cut 4 feet off the back, put it back together.
Oh, yeah. Move it that way and then make it garage or whatever. Yeah.
and she
So-
doesn't access it from the alley.
Right, and then I'm not gonna be able to drive to it once this breezeway gets built. That's gonna be in the way, so it's not a garage anyway. It's gonna be an accessory building. Tom explained about the percentage of accessory permitted for the size of the house. We cut off 4 feet, and I'm proposing to build a 24 by 24 proper size garage at the back corner of the new property. That'll be within the limits, and I'll have a nice storage building and a regular size garage.
So it's not habitable, it's just a story.
It is not habitable. It doesn't have any plumbing. It has electricity and lighting, but that's all. And it's too small to put a car in. I won't be able to anyway to get to it anyway, so. I'll probably change the garage door on the front into more of just like a regular door, depending on how much you do at the end. So that's the bone of contention. But we figured out a way to fix it. I don't have to dump the garage in the dump. I don't have to tear it down, and I could use the storage actually, because these are small houses.
Yeah.
So that's it.
It's time what you're doing to remodel the area right there. It looks really nice. Go back to the house plan.
Yeah, who's the architect?
It's Fred Mansberger from Valparaiso.
Oh, okay.
What's nice too is it's not a big mansion on the street with little homes. It's
Oh,
really
good.
too
Yeah, I
That's fun.
small.
Yeah. Especially the landscape. and everything. I'll print it out.
I currently have the left side landscaping, and it really looks good. People stop me constantly and tell me how much they love
Yeah,
my
it's
house. Walking, it's a very walking dog,
Yeah.
kids playing and everything area. I have a front porch on the black house now, and that's gonna have to come off.
That's the house you're in right now?
Yes.
Okay.
And you can see it's pretty small. There is a front porch on the house to the south. I'm gonna call it 49, because that's the end of the address. 49 has a front porch coming off totally. The current house I'm in at 45 has a kitchen, a 1-bedroom, small living room, and my 2 dogs. Or just I only live here part-time. So I want to live here full-time. And that house is a little tight. So I'm not building a kitchen into 49 because I have a nice kitchen. It will become kitchen, dining room, guest room. And then this will be living, master suite, and a loft upstairs with a bedroom and bathroom. So it'll be a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom home, 1 kitchen.
Yeah, close to my friend,
Oh, okay.
Mindy, Bellicasta. She's in a brown, yeah, I
I
know.
haven't met.
She's in the brown
I only live
two-story.
here about 3 months a year.
Okay, okay.
So.
But yeah, I've been noticing the progress on this, and it's really good. I love the yellow door.
Well, I was completely finished,
Yeah,
completely finished.
Then you got the other house.
And in December, my neighbor said, I'll sell you the house.
You were like, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yes,
Fix
my
this up,
sister
make
was
it.
I
like,
know. I
Right,
have
yes,
a Mexican
yes.
here that's not a handler.
but I'm gonna, it just makes me a little sick to think of how much I'm gonna have to spoil the things that, like the front porch.
Sure.
It's already, anyway, that's not important. It's
So
important
the
thing is-
breezeway is all enclosed, you can walk back and forth.
Yeah, that can go on through to the back. And there'll be, matching doors, it shows on the survey. It's all glass in the back, but to minimize that, in the front, there's 2 columns of stone with storage behind them within the breezeway. So it's really just a connection to be able to get there.
That's really cool,
Yeah.
really cool.
Plans.
Yeah.
Tried to do things well. I spent a lot of years working on the other house gradually.
Yeah.
My sister helps me on all of it.
It's a lot of house for only 3 months a year though.
Well, now that's just gonna be my full
Okay,
time,
maybe
so
okay.
that's the plan, is if I could get full time, then I would stay. Cause I grew up here, I was in Dave Rickland's class.
Okay.
Anyway,
I love it. It just looks like some of the western suburb stuff.
Yeah, it was-
Where?
You know, like western,
Like
my
Oak
sister
Park,
lives in
yeah.
Hinsdale and stuff like that. So it looks like a western, it looks like a kind of the neat architecture, something unique, you
well, the
know?
thing about the.
There's something different, you
It's
know?
gonna evolve, I think it'll be a little bit more like, it looks more like one house, the colors, he's planning a wood that's gonna age. And I think in this, edition of it, he's got it kind of too brown. I didn't want 2 black houses. So we're gonna, the stone's gonna help, I think it's gonna be more like a gray.
And you can talk to the framing black house windows and the same.
Oh, okay.
And then the landscape, and then the main driveway to a garage will be where you can see a little car on the side of the far right. There's an existing driveway there. We tore down the falling down garage that was there. And it's just a huge open field back there now, but at least it's cleaned up. What I've done is everything I can do before getting this approved, because I own the house. It has to be fixed, and that yard had to get cleaned up. And I'm probably, I will make it look like this with a side front porch or something. So I have plan B, but let's hope.
So you're only 60 feet wide.
That black house is 750 square.
Oh, yeah.
That was
Now it's
the
120, now you're normal
so-
size.
It's perfect for a 3-month house.
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
the other one,
But it- yeah, it was very well done.
Okay.
This is where my sisters are.
5 upstairs.
Everybody's up here, so I'm getting too old.
Where are you?
That makes
North Carolina.
Oh,
I was,
Yeah.
but now I'm in Chesterton.
okay.
And at the beach. Treating well,
Where were you, North Carolina?
Waynesville, out west of Asheville,
Okay.
right on the edge.
I have a lot of friends.
Well, I was in the mountains, so it's very hard to leave.
Yeah.
And
I've been
I always said if I ever get to, I don't want to do that drive. I'm gonna have to have a nice place. So I found a place, this year has just been insane, but I found a beach house, bought it, sold North Carolina, bought the neighbor's house next door, sold another bus stop house I had in Bloomington where I went to school. And, so I've been just, since 2014, my life's been really crazy, but
I want to eventually be in Munster in a comfortable house. I don't want to,
doors away from me.
yeah, that's what started it all.
Are you
I-
on Friday as well?
Yeah. Something that's, I didn't want to start all over because I just love my little house. We gutted the inside and I have the same builder.
So it's got 14.
Oh, cool.
And the same builder for the new one.
Now, will you invite us over when it's
I
all done so
will.
you can see it?
Yeah,
I love to see it.
show you.
I'm a builder, but I'm not a house builder, but I love architecture.
You
Obviously,
should come over
Rachel's
now. You don't
architect,
even
you
have to
know?
wait till we're
Right.
finished.
I am,
Yes.
yeah, cool. Can you experience?
Well, everyone who walks in the door at my house is just blown away.
Yeah.
Because you just don't expect it. But now that the outside looks so cool,
Yeah.
they're not quite as surprised.
Right.
Sure.
But then I have a beautiful deck in the back with this fake grass on there. I put turf and pea gravel for the rest of the backyard because I have 2 dogs that used to like to dig. So I was done. I was like, it's good, but I still need a little more space.
I don't think we've ever seen anything like this done in Munster before.
I know.
I don't think I've ever seen 2 houses combined like this,
The
you know?
next house
Yeah.
to this direction,
Right.
the next house to the south is a combined lot already. It has one house, but it was always one house. He's just got a lot of property around. Why they did that. It's been too tiny for another house, but it's a big house. There's a double wide driveway and it's 2-story.
These neighborhoods, yeah, they've been around for so long.
Right.
Done different things.
What year was your original house built?
41.
Oh, 41.
This was the original.
It's a lot of food right now.
Right.
Hill is fine, but
Yeah.
So I think it's called, well, Robert Goff. No, it's Jerry. It's Jerry. Robert G. Goff. Jerry Goff is my neighbor now. And his property is an addition, 11 house feet, something like that, addition.
okay, so yeah, it was
So,
consolidated.
yeah. Well, he actually inherited it, but I don't know the story. So you can see I have a lot of open land now.
Oh, yeah.
This is amazing. We took down 2 huge rotten trees, all this gnarly, rusty chain link fence that had horrible things growing in it. We just moved it all off. Get the garage, that's the next thing, so remove or chop off the garage. And get it off the alley. And then do it whatever we can until we get the final approval, if we do, on the inside to get it framed up and keep moving with the permits that we are allowed to get at this point.
So all your architectural drawings are finished, or are you working?
No, this is where we are.
Okay, okay. So you just have the rendering right now.
He has the floor plan,
Okay.
and I've approved that, and, he said 2 to 3 weeks a week ago, so. It'll be, I just said, just focus on 49, because we will do that first. And then I've already talked to my builder and gone over this, and, leave me alone. And do as much as we can over there, and then start on the breezeway, and the very last thing will be the front porch on 45, and all that landscape changing, which is only a year old. So that'll make me happy with it. Yeah. I just don't want my this time.
Street, which address you want to use?
Well, I was kind of thinking 8345, since all my bills are paid from
Yeah,
that, and
right, right.
everything,
That's easier, right?
That guy, I don't want, I want.
Yeah, right, you
What
don't-
to do, whatever
I don't
is
blame
going
you.
on over there.
We staged it.
Right, right.
I've already sent packages off the front porch back to him. He was a pathetic person. Nice guy.
Well, the neighborhoods are very happy to see something different.
They're all happy.
Right, I mean,
Yes.
instead of seeing an eyesore in a neighborhood, something to take care of it, you know?
The people who live on the other side of the alley, especially next door neighbors to that house.
On the white oak side.
No, it's, yeah, on the white outside between us.
Yeah, there's an alley.
Yeah. She's the happiest Lee. I know I've introduced myself, especially lately. to
Sure.
Yeah, right.
But only being here 3 months and not in the summer usually.
Yeah,
Go to the mountains in the summer. Everybody's holed up and
Well, you're part of my walking loop. My friend Mindy lives in the brown two-story. It's like you have down from you. And
The
so
bigger one
it's a two-story.
that was like redone.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of like an old, I don't know when it was built, but it's like, it's interesting. The construction is all black. So it's sided now, but it's hard to renovate. Anyway, she's great, but we walk by your house all the time.
We'll come
and we
by
chit
it.
chat.
You see my white car there,
Okay, well,
knock on the door. Show you. Then you can go see her house, which is even cooler.
Well, I'm still deciding to check for myself and artist. I've been working on my house for 15 years.
Oh, have you?
My walls are like this.
Okay.
Motion approved?
So there's a couple things, I don't know if you read the staff report, but there was one question that I had about encroachment into the alley, so that's been addressed.
Yes.
with The garage. The second one was the setback. It's platted here as a 30-foot setback. We're gonna have to verify that because in this district, it's a 35-foot minimum front setback.
The front.
But there's a,
For the joiner.
but there's a provision in our zoning ordinance that allows for if there are houses on either side that have a shallower setback, then that becomes the de facto setback for your property. So I just need to verify that. And I need to talk to
You kind of go like this on that street on my side. I was just noticing that, but I'm not the most forward person at all. And neither is the White House is behind. 49 is even further back.
Yeah.
So I think that's odd. There
Is
was
it
an
so small,
addition
trying
to
to
my
look at it.
house.
is it just a breeze?
Is it just a plan or you're talking about?
Breezeways back.
Right.
Plat
But both
shows-
of those,
It's just a line on the plat. It's not really a consequence to anything that you're gonna do. But we just have to make sure that the platted setback is appropriate. So I'm gonna
So that's
check on
great.
that with Stuart. And then the other thing was on the side, on the north and south side, there should be a 7.5-foot utility and drainage easement. It looks like you got a drainage swale being proposed on the south side, which is fine. Which is one of the flats that is an easement. So it's flat that is an easement, and then on the north side as well. Which is something to add to the plat. So what I would recommend would be motion to approve subject to those two conditions.
I still understand though, if those two houses are existing.
Yeah.
Why the setback is an issue?
Okay, I see a 30.58 right here in the corner.
So it's not an issue for the existing building, but when you do a plat of when you do a subdivision plat, it's like the plat document,
Yeah, 35-foot line.
you have to plat in the building, the front building line. So it says 30 foot, but when you're supposed to plat, you're supposed to include in the plat is not where the existing building is, but where the zoning ordinance states that the minimum setback line. So in this zoning district, under circumstances, it's 35 feet, unless, and this is something we added in 2019, to deal with situations like this, where there's a like sort of a non-conformity, right? If you're in a neighborhood where everything else is built from that minimum setback line, then that becomes the de facto setback line for you. So like I said, I just need to verify that.
And just get it on the plat right.
Right, yeah, exactly. And it shouldn't affect
The
anything.
structure you
Have to
draw.
chop off the front of my house.
No,
But
No,
then
we-
you're chopping off the porch.
Because looking at it here, you're already in front of that line, in my opinion. If I'm looking at it, right, you know, there's a corner house, there's 30 point.
I think it's going right to the corner. Yeah, right there, it's at 30 feet.
Yeah.
So,
You're
yeah,
already in front of it.
It's supposed to be 35.
I know, but that house is already there.
right, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, it's not an
It's not an
issue,
issue,
it's
right.
just something for the.
Right.
You're not moving your house because the house has already been approved at 30.58 feet.
And really, it's just, the line on the map is, or the line on the plat is just the line. And no one will ever go back to it. and look at it. So it's not that big. of a
But don't go back to my garage and find out that it's on the public property.
deal. Somebody will find that.
That we have.
Is there a timeline that she has to get the garage?
Well, I'm gonna get it as soon as my
Okay.
guy gets his permit, so.
Okay.
So yeah, those are the only two conditions that I would recommend. And that would be sufficient for approval of the preliminary plat. And then I'll give you a list of addresses. I did send notifications to your neighbors, give them the opportunity to appeal to the plan commission. But barring any appeals, which we didn't get, then the final
For my
plat.
neighbors, I'll tell you that.
Well, it's always good, yeah, you know. You can hand it, I mean, you can hand it over to them if you want to explain what you're doing.
Nancy's doing it for me.
Okay.
She's on her team.
So then the next meeting would be at the plan commission next month, and that would be the approval of the final plat, which is the actual full-size Mylar document that gets signed.
So that's true.
You don't have to advertise this one.
You don't advertise for a public hearing, but you do have to publish. You have to send letters to the neighbors within 200 feet to give them the opportunity.
All the way like circle.
We will give you those addresses.
Yeah, that'd be good, because she was guessing that was 300 feet.
So it's a handful of lots.
That's addresses, and then, so the 30 days that they have time to appeal is between now and April 11th.
Yeah, I don't even think it's 30 days. I think they have. I think you have to send the letters within 10 days, and then they have maybe 15 days to appeal or something. It's not that long.
So the whole thing, nothing's really gonna happen until April 11th,
Right.
when we meet again. with Mylar. And then know the real answer at that point. And, because I know when it was the May 9th meeting, that was when the go-ahead was given. To start pulling permits for things that do before then.
I don't see why you couldn't turn your drawings in and have them ready to go. I mean, really.
Yeah, there's not going to be an issue with this at all.
Right. So I would turn to the building department, have them go and get them ready to go. Pay your permit fee, or wait to pay your permit fee until it's approved, and then.
So that's a question which I expected to answer later, but when you, well, I'll get one permit for this whole project.
You should.
When the whole thing is in the rolled up plans, all of it. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
I
gonna
would
take
submit,
time.
I would
Just
submit the
the
whole
approvals
thing,
all
so it's
on.
done, so. I mean, unless you want to bite it off in phases, but
I
I
am
would.
going to until Vansberger has it. You know, I don't know if you can, I don't want to wait until June or July if it takes them that long to do it. Because it's, you know, it's everything.
I mean, you want the drawings, you put on the pricing and all that stuff anyways, too,
Right.
right? You
Yeah,
know?
he said in a couple of weeks, he could have something to show up over. I don't know if that would be what I would need for the building department, because they're gonna say, oh, you need your plumbing, you need your
You
electric.
want all the drawings.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah, I
and your
had it.
builders don't want that complete, because you gotta
Right,
get an
I
estimate
had
for it.
that for, and I gave it to Vansberger for 45.
Is he a one person office or does he have a team?
He has a team. I've met one other
Everybody
person.
should still get that.
He's been, you know, I put the pedal to, he's working on my beach house, so he lives there. And I said, if you can't do this by the 24th, which was the deadline for Tom, then I'll get somebody. So he did, he got it done. So we're kind of off, he's off the hook. Yeah. But I do want to keep moving forward, and so the garage next. If I can get my builder to start bringing it. You know,
It's good weather now.
yeah. Well, I got a little window of good weather when we did the demolition, cleaned it out inside and then tore down the garage and cleaned up the backyard. So, and I also had, Nova Basement Systems, I don't know if you know about them, but they do an inside perimeter waterproofing system, which I have at 45, it's Primo, and I had to do that with in 49, which had to be done. Some situation. where it was just driving.
Yeah, right.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
right.
I know, I have a little corner. When it, you know,
Every time.
when it rains, yeah.
Please.
It's so embarrassing given my profession. I have like a towel at the bottom of the basement.
I know, well,
Like,
for
I don't have
thousands
to
of dollars, you can call
yeah,
Nova
yeah,
Basement.
and I had, I wanted to do the kitchen instead, so
Yeah.
that's.
Right.
That'd be much
I
more
ordered
Right,
enjoyable.
right.
You only have a few nights a year where you can't sleep. about it.
Yeah, I got it. That part of the basement's not finished, so it's okay.
Well, there were two sump pumps,
Yeah.
and he was pumping the front one to the street,
Okay.
which went on the sidewalk and made a skating rink.
Jeez.
And it flows toward me, so
Yeah.
the two houses in a row were just ice. And I went over and I said, someone's gonna sue you. And here's my letter to you to prove that I tried to get you to stop it. Finally, somebody bothered him about it in the town, I think, and we moved it so that it only went on.
Oh, you're not tied, you're not tied the storm out there, it's a sump pits, right?
We're gonna ask, weren't you, about that? I'm gonna ask some department. They
Sewer water.
They pump it to a box out 15 feet from the house, so it comes up into the yard.
The storm sewer out there?
That's what, I assume no one knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
They work for the town.
I think in certain instances, yeah, you can. Prefer them to do it. Because.
411, it's certainly not into the sewer.
Oh, no,
That's what people say, oh, you gotta put that into the sewer. No.
That's an illegal connection.
Yeah. That makes sense to me, but it works great. It just goes out in the yard, soaks back in, and pump it up. Soaks back in. Turn this on.
All right, so I think I heard a motion to
I'll make
approve
a
with those
motion,
conditions and a second from Rachel. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Well, I'm excited to see this one.
Yeah.
All right,
That would definitely
good.
come
That
out.
makes me very happy.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great addition, it's gonna be really cool, you know?
Well, definitely recognize it.
Oh,
You're welcome to stop, and I'll show you what I have so far. I'll even show you the awful part.
I'll wait till the weather warms.
Okay.
And then you can walk around outside a little bit nicer, like 60 instead of 30, you know? Now, if you got a neighbor that's an architect, you can help you with your little pointers here and there, right on the corner.
I need
Yeah.
to give a card,
You
because
know?
I get all the time. You know, the architects, my guy, my real good friend died. He did 45.
Okay.
So, and it was great, because when you have an architect, you go in with the drawings and the town knows.
Yeah.
Instead of a napkin.
Right.
Okay.
That's exciting, either way.
All right, so we had a motion to adjourn in a second. And all in
Yeah.
favor?
Thanks,
All right, yeah, just, I'll send you those addresses and we'll just coordinate with going to get those final things
Okay.
set up for the,
Final Mylar.
so yeah, so they're saying that April is the last
He already
week.
knows. Nancy's on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Good night.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. Thank you.
All right, everything fine in town, okay? Hey, I made a joke about the kitty cat, that's a sign, but holy moly, for 6 months, that thing's been flashing every night.
Oh, well,
Oh, really?